Welcome everyone to our 19th Fireside Chat. I'm Tim Hollick.
We're rolling along here, my friend.
We're rolling. With me is Joe Zinni, my good friend.
Hey Tim.
How you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous.
What are we doing today?
We're going to talk about a subject that's the white elephant in the room sometimes, confrontation.
Oh,
and how do you form your argument? Because no matter how you look at it, you're going to fall into an issue where you're going to have some confrontation. And when I say talk about argument, I'm talking about your point counterpoint. How to have a discussion with somebody that isn't always pleasant, but do it in a way where everybody wins.
Right.
Because we're always talking win-win, always one word
Win-win.
win-win. You're going to get confrontation, and you know it isn't always good. And sometimes people's emotions come out.
Mm-hmm.
Their first instinct is to strike back, and that is not always the way to handle it professionally. And in your life, and in somebody that's in business, a salesperson, you're going to get confrontation. You need to know how to handle it the right way.
It's true.
So where do you go from here? You've got some confrontation. Where does Tim Hollick go?
I'm sure the subject today is giving people a lot of angst.
Yeah.
Because most people try to avoid confrontation.
Sure.
That's the problem in life, and that's why people don't go forward, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's a sales deal, because they don't like confrontation. And the reason why they don't like it is because they make it confrontation.
Sometimes that's just it.
Covey, when he talks, Stephen Covey talks about when he first started reading books, and he says the one very interesting fact that he read, and like you said, he never invented anything he talks about.
No.
It's been around for years.
Sure.
In the Bible, it's just that. There's a space between being confronted and your reply, and that's your space, and you choose that space wisely.
Sure.
So if somebody comes at you, there's so many different types of confrontation. It can be a negotiation confrontation. It can be home with your kids, with your wife, where somebody attacks you. That's the time not to respond.
Absolutely.
Unless you feel you can. You can't be emotional when you're attacked like that. So attack is one way, but a regular confrontation when somebody's giving their opinion, we make it more confrontation when we attack.
Yes.
We lash back somehow, or we really try to make them think that they're wrong. Well, that's not a win-win situation at that point. So emotions cannot be involved at all with confrontation. You have to be unemotional, and you got to deal with facts all the time. My wife laughs at me every time she calls me on something that maybe happened wrong or bad or this and that. And I said, no, I don't want to hear the emotions. Just give me the facts.
Facts and reality. What's going on? What's happening?
What really is going on?
Right.
Because when we get emotional, we kind of exaggerate. We blow it up more.
Yep.
And I think that's when we make it confrontation. And it doesn't have to be. I was at a great leadership conference this morning, and we're talking about the different aspects of leadership. And the one thing we have to look at to be leaders is to always step back and always say, are we wrong?
Right.
Let's look at the facts again. Maybe we did something wrong. When you start at that level, you don't make a confrontation. You bring the level of the anxiety down in the atmosphere. Whether it could be a meeting, it could be just a one-to-one. Like I said, it could be family, it could be friends, customer, employees, fellow workers. It could be anything. So if you really just step aside from the emotions of it and look at the facts, I think you make a better decision on what you're going to say back. So if somebody comes back and you're really attacking, maybe that's not the time to say something.
And you're right, you're diffusing the situation. I think let's bring it down to a level, let's get rid of the confrontation and now make it an argument. And when, some people use the word argument of, yelling back and forth. An argument is not yelling back and forth, it's point counterpoint.
Right, point counterpoint, that's great.
Having a discussion.
Great words.
Just have a discussion.
Yep.
So get rid of the confrontational part, stop the emotional part.
Right.
Get into an argument.
Right.
Where both of you are dealing with reality and the facts.
Right.
Be it a board meeting or a group, or like you said, one-on-one, be it a family member or a fellow employee or a customer. You now want to put it at a level where everybody's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So you turn it into an argument. How do you form your argument?
Again, it's all facts. You got to look at the situation. My cousin Eddie taught me a really important thing years ago. I talked about the ski analyzation last week.
Yeah.
But this was basically when you're saying you're in a meeting with people. The best thing you can do is sit there and observe. Don't try to lead it. Just observe. And and how you do that is you got to be, like you said, you got to be up above, looking down. And it's amazing what you pick up. So if it's a one-to-one or a meeting type confrontation, you look at the facts of what's really going on. Some people get excited because they're excitable people, they're emotional people. They might not be mad, but if you take it, look at it that way, you're going to analyze it wrong. So I look at facts first, I look at behavior, I look at how people present it to me. It's like in negotiations, I'm on the negotiating committee, the school committee.
Yep.
And we negotiate contracts with the teachers, we just did it with the paras and all that stuff. So you have to look what's really going on. And when they start getting, the other side starts getting emotional, you have to look at that and you got to understand it. And, different tactics happen during negotiation, and some people really don't know how to negotiate.
They don't.
They don't realize that coming back, attacking, is not really the right way to do it. It's come back with facts. Facts, people we can understand. So I look at the facts and I come back with facts. I also think before I ever say anything, because you don't want to say something that could be interpreted wrong.
Right.
You don't want to say something that commits you in some way, in an opposite way that you didn't think about.
That's right.
You don't want to say something that trips you up. So
Because you can't take it back. Once it's out there, you can just say, oh, I didn't mean that, but they've already gotten the gist of it. You always want to be careful of how you handle your situation.
Right. And sometimes not talking is the best solution.
Absolutely.
So just listen. Just listen and say you're going to come back with your replies. That's what we do in negotiations. Okay, we're going to go caucus.
Yeah.
We go back, we talk about it, we come back and give them what we're thinking. So don't rush into something, especially if you're emotional.
Yeah.
That's when you have to step back, and that's when Covey says, it's your space. That's space in between is your space, and you decide when you're going to respond. So the basic thing was between stimulus and response. So what we're saying, confrontation to response, that space. It could be a week later, it could be a month later. I remember one time my brother did something at a party of mine and it really angered me. And I never said something to him until 3, 4, 5 months later because I was too emotional about it.
So you're using your space wisely.
Did. So it became more facts at that point. And I presented it much better.
Yeah.
I presented, and he understood it. I understand. But if I had done it that night, there would have been a fight.
And then yeah, right. And and then it turns into confrontational, and it gets away from the argument, which is the points
Right.
or the counterpoints, and it gets into the emotional thing, and then it becomes a bigger deal than it really
That's
is.
right.
And you're trying to avoid that because, especially in business, time is important.
Right.
And the last thing you want to do is get tied up in a confrontation when a quick conversation, a point counterpoint, and not necessarily you're going to win or they're going to win. You're going to both win by reaching the mutual grounds.
You want to win, but when people are fighting each other, it's a no-win. It's a lose-lose.
Right.
And you don't want to have that either because, most of the time you need to settle something. So when people get emotional, they change it and they make a confrontation even more.
Right.
And that's when
Waste of time.
people, most of the time, where is really anger in the body? It's the hurt of a heart. It's a hurt.
It's the emotion.
They're emotional. You hurt them in some way. And sometimes you're going to take time, and we talked about that with something that happened to me a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I still haven't confronted it because I'm not ready to yet.
Right.
But I will be soon, and I've given it a lot of thought, and I will confront it in the right way.
Right.
And I won't go back as a baby and say I quit or this or that. I'll go back with, somebody needs to understand how it hurt or it disappointed or, so it
But
takes time.
you're building your evidence, which is your facts,
Right.
before you bring it to that level because you want to eliminate the emotional part of it.
Because I was emotional.
You were very emotional, but you immediately, the whole time you were emotional, you and I were discussing it, you were bringing out 6 or 7 different facts
True.
that brought it to that level
Yeah.
that I think that they were missing on.
Yeah, so I just need to control my emotions before I confront it, and it's not easy. I mean, it's kind of
not
this.
easy.
Any of this is not easy for anybody. It's not easy for me. I sometimes trip up. I sometimes don't do the things I say to do. My wife reminds me many a time
Yeah,
when I start to
I
get
do.
excited about it. She looked and
Good.
said, think about, listen to your talks every morning.
Yes. Cindy said
It's
the
thrown in
same
your
thing.
face. It doesn't taste good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But Cindy said the same thing. You told them this, and yet you're doing this. And your first response back is, yeah, but, and then as you calm down and you start having a discussion with them, be it Nancy with you and Cindy with me, it now becomes more reality.
Yeah.
They're right. Let's eliminate the emotion. Let's look at the reality of the whole thing.
And sometimes when we don't do it right, it's really our passion more than sometimes it's anger.
Yeah.
Sometimes I know that with you
You
and
and I
I,
are both
we're very
we're
passionate when
intelligent
we
people,
talk.
we're well educated in there, but we also have our passions too.
Yeah, so we sometimes come
We're human.
across a little bit cocky,
Well, that's okay.
but that's who we are.
Yeah.
So we learn to calm that down too. But like I said, sometimes it's just passion with people. So don't take it to heart, and really, if you're a confrontational person, somebody that wants to tell you something, they'll come back confrontational because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They're nervous. They're afraid of you.
Right.
What you're going to say.
And you really don't want that. You don't want
Especially if
fear.
you're a leader.
You want respect. You don't want fear because you want respect between the
That's
two
all I
people.
care. I
Yeah.
want respect.
You don't want
anybody fearing me.
because it doesn't lead to anything. Because then you're going to miss out on a good argument.
That's right. Good arguments are good sometimes. Makes you think differently.
Sometimes somebody bringing something to your attention is important. I'll give you a good example. My sister Emma's godmother ordered flowers sent in the house. And the flowers died a little early. And rather than calling up and yelling and screaming at the lady, we sat down and discussed it. Cindy made the phone call and said, look, this is just an FYI. They didn't last as long as we thought. And we just wanted you to know so you could talk to your supplier and they could get an understanding of what's going on.
Right.
The woman took it in the great graces. She says, let me check into it. She got back and said, leave the flowers outside and I'll exchange them. No, that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking to let you know. But because of the way we did it, she understood that and said, we're going to make everybody happy. I don't mind doing this. You're going to have fresh flowers.
That's awesome.
There's a perfect customer relation.
But you started it off by not confronting
Right,
her in a bad way.
Instead, your
It's more
flowers
FYI.
stayed, or you did horrible.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You just say, look, for your information, this is what's happened.
Yeah.
And tell them what's going on. You turn what could have been confrontational into just a discussion,
Yep.
an argument. This is what happened. Okay, let me look into it. Okay, that's fine. Before you know it, you got point, counterpoint, and everybody's happy. She did a small flower arrangement. You got beautiful flowers. She has a customer for life.
And that's a great
Doesn't take
realization
a
of the
lot.
opposite.
Yeah,
That's the opposite way when you make it confrontation.
sure.
Now, the way you handle it with somebody on the phone in a business, of course they're going to get emotional if you attack them.
Sure.
So that's a
Can't
great
blame them.
analogy of the opposite way. Sometimes we cause the confrontation and make it worse
Right.
when we start it off.
Right.
Like in a restaurant. There's no need to get mad unless you're being treated unfairly.
Right.
If you didn't get a good cooked meal, it's...
Tell 'em.
Yeah, just tell
Just
them.
be pleasant.
You don't need to be
Excuse
angry.
me, but
Right.
not, hey, this stunk.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get defensive to it, and you can't blame them.
No, you can't, because they take what they do with pride. Maybe they weren't paying attention. We all don't pay attention sometimes. We all have that
We
in
all
our
make
lives.
mistakes too.
That's right. So sometimes you
Be
have to
forgiving.
figure it out. That was a good thing about the leadership conference this morning. It's like you have to let, especially the millennial crowd, you have to let them make mistakes. Because the biggest point that he made in the whole thing was, why don't millennials act the way they do with us baby boomers? Because they actually don't trust us.
No.
Because of the way we've been all like, because we can get very hot-headed when they don't do something right. Well, people don't learn unless you let them make mistakes. That's the first thing in coaching, is to let them understand what they're doing wrong. Don't tell them what they're doing wrong. Get them to understand with the questions. So it's the same thing with this. You don't have to confront somebody. You can ask them a question back. Now, you said this against me. What did you mean by that? Dig deeper.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
That's a
thing you
great
can
question.
do.
That's a great question to ask
Yeah.
when you're during a confrontation or an argument. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Now,
Dig deeper.
now everyone's going to settle down a little bit. Okay, let me think for a second.
Yeah.
And now you're on the same level.
Right. Well, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It really just means I didn't like the way that was done.
Correct.
Okay, great.
It's not personal.
That's right. You gotta get it back.
People
and
do
forth.
take things personal, and sometimes you gotta eliminate that.
You get hurt. Like I said, it's more of a shot. When people are mad, it's more that they have a shot in the heart than they're actually mad. They became mad because of the hurt heart.
Yes.
And that was a great analogy by Covey too. It's amazing when you read some of this stuff, what it does to your mind and how you hit different levels. Because how'd you get to where you are, Tim? Well, it just happened because I read, I listened,
Research.
I try to change. I mean, I'm not the easiest person to live with years ago. I don't think I'm perfect still, believe me, but I'm better because I understand things more. It took me a lot to live with 2 and then 3 women. You know, I grew up with guys mostly. We have one sister.
Right.
And my sister was more like one of the guys.
Yeah, of course.
You know, so she was a woman. She was ladylike, but she was more like one of the guys. So it took me a while to get used to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would get emotional at first, and then you start to learn, this doesn't work. This ain't going good for me.
It's like bashing your head against the wall. It just feels good when you stop.
That's right.
You know?
Exactly. So
And sometimes that's what can happen in a confrontation too. You get so angry at what's going on, you just want to hit your head against the wall because it's going to feel good when you stop. And it doesn't have to get to that point.
well, think about when you do get angry, what happens to your mind.
You
It
lose it.
shuts. It just
You
shuts.
lose it. You don't have.
You're losing it. It
You don't,
shuts.
you don't have that skill anymore.
There's no open-mindedness anymore.
No.
There's no open-mindedness to say, well, let's break that down. You said this. What did you mean by that? Breaking things down, sometimes the way they presented it was wrong, and you took it wrong. It could have been right, but you took it wrong.
Yeah.
So really just go into the situation. If you're really angry, don't say anything. Just keep listening.
Yeah.
Come back another time.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it because you're not going to do a good result if you're emotional. 2 is start asking questions when somebody confronts you. If you didn't do something right, if somebody says, if you're a leader or you're the boss or you're this and that, somebody says they don't agree with what you did, then maybe they didn't present it exactly right. Again, questions. What do you mean by that? Okay. And then give them examples. Okay, I've tried that before, but this is the results I got. So what do you think about that? You know, you discuss.
Clarification. You just
Exactly. I like your point. You know, your points and, you know, what is counterpoint and point?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
That's the best way to have an argument. You know, it makes it nice and easy. This seemed to be a tough subject.
It is.
It's a difficult one sometimes. We're going to have a fun one next time. We're going to talk about relaxing and going to your happy place.
Oh, baby.
Everybody needs to do that.
That's a good
You're
opposite.
going to walk away from your argument and go to your happy place. That's going to be our next one. Our 20th Fireside Chat is going to be about relaxing, finding a happy place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Well, thanks for joining us,
Thank you.
everybody. We had a great time.
Excellent.
We always do.